Hi and welcome back to Mentally Yours, a podcast presented by Mahfouz by Simran, co-presented by EDUTHON. And today we have with us Mr. Kunal Mehra, the CEO of Crimson Education India, with a background in law and leadership roles at organizations like Coursera and the College Board. He brings years of experience in education and strategy. At Crimson, he leads the mission of guiding Indian students towards global opportunities. So please welcome Mr. Kunal. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very well, Simran. Thank you for having me with you today. I'm looking forward to speaking with you this afternoon.
I'm really glad and thank you for cooperating with us. I know there were a lot of changes going on at the back end, but you still were very cooperative. You were there with us for us. Thank you so much for that, sir.
You're welcome.
So how does your day usually looks like? I realize this was one hectic day and the upcoming days are going to be really occupied, busy as well. How does like a usual day in the life of a CEO looks like?
Well, it depends on various factors. Um, have recently also started looking after a larger region, which is the Middle East. So, in addition to heading India, I also look after another region, and that means a fair bit of travel, a fair bit of, though the time zones are not so bad, but being able to coordinate with folks in other the other region as well. I mean, day looks, it could be busier, I would imagine. I mean, lots of people take pride in making their days look really packed and hectic, but I like to kind of believe that I could get more done in the day if I wanted to. But it's a nice balance of being able to spend time on big priority items and also being able to spend time with my kids and my family, which I think is really important. So often we only talk about all the time that goes into work. But I think for me, it's also important that I spend time with my family on a daily basis and not just be a weekend dad. So yeah, balance still. Managed to take out time to do regular stuff, play with the kids, but a large part of my initial half of the day is, focused on planning, figuring out what are the big ticket items that I need to focus on, and who in my team will be, who I can delegate some of the other tasks to.
So you're not one of those people, as you said, who likes to, keep their day occupied or busy, jam-packed with one thing after the another. You like to have a work-life balance.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to call it that, to me, I think it's about prioritizing the right things in your day, right? And whether it's your personal life or your professional life, I like to keep some slots or some parts of my day pretty empty for me to think, for me to be able to, sort of pay attention to what's going right, what's not going right, overall in the business and in my life. So it's important that you take some time out to stare the wall, as I call it.
I like that. I like that quote. Okay. So you have worked at various different organizations, and what happened that, you suddenly got drawn towards education, or was it one factor or one incident that, made you realize that, this is something that I want to go towards?
Well, growing up in a middle class family in India in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, education was something that was always emphasized as, one of the sort of stepping stone or ladders to success,
Absolutely.
for us. And so the importance of education has continued, has been, has been sort of very relevant in all of our lives. I think for me, the penny drop moment was when I realized that, you know, when you think about the opportunities available for most students in India, it's really, I would say it's really unfair. Unfair because those who grew up in privileged backgrounds will have access to information, awareness around
Absolutely.
opportunities, whether it
Mm-hmm.
is, an upcoming area or career option like law, or being able to do something, different, study something, out of the box. Those are not things that get discussed in schools or in even colleges. And if your parents are not well educated or not in sync with the times, they're going to drill into the same set of options: engineering, medicine, etc. So I felt like, a lot of kids have the competence, the skill, the intelligence to do much better in life if they had access to the right information at the right time. And that kind of led me to my first sort of opportunity within the education space. I was fresh out of college, and uh, from weird stroke of luck, I had done well in some of these entrance exams that most kids write. I purely dedicate that to luck and nothing else. And I figured it was not the most difficult thing to do, crack an exam, but I also realized that a lot of kids struggle with that. And so that kind of led me to the first opportunity within education, which was in test prep back in the day. That was one of the most emerging fields within education. And slowly, and gradually, I realized that that's just scratching the surface. Being able to help somebody write the test or crack a test. And there's a lot more in education. Of course, when you get into education, you encounter various kids from different walks of life, from lower income backgrounds who are extremely high potential, and the rest. And then you start realizing that, opportunities, information are not equally distributed. And so how do you solve for that problem? And that led me in various different directions through the last, various 2 decades of my life. And I genuinely feel and continue to believe that education is one of those sort of superpowers that can enable you to unlock so much more in life, whether it's just professional and
Absolutely.
career progression, but also how to live a better life, right? When you're better read, when you have access to far more, information out there, you can make choices which help you maximize your potential in life. Yeah, so I think that's been the reason why I've stuck around for 2 decades in the
I
education.
really like how, it doesn't come from like a just like a simple sympathy causing background or like, a sob story, but it has a more realistic angle to it that, I wanted to create a change and I actually started moving towards that. So I really appreciate that, you understand the importance of education. Somebody being a leader, managing so many things, has to prioritize education. And the way you were acting all humble, that that the clearance of the entrance exam was pure luck. I think you should take the credit first of all.
No, thank you for that. But I think it's something that everyone has to come to realization, the journey of what drives them and why that drives them. And I think for a lot of us, there are no penny drop moments. It's gradually being able to, understand what you would like to do with life, what problems you want to solve in life, or what do you want to devote time doing on a daily basis.
I think when you are talking about these things, you seem like a very sorted person that way, you're like because being at the top level in the hierarchy, making decisions that are very crucial for the company or for the venture that you're working for, and then watching for them, being there for your team, and still being this calm. It takes experience, it takes a lot of understanding through the ears. So I really want to appreciate you for that. Even when you're talking, I could sense this calmness in every aspect of your representation. So I have a question related to that only, that you have to take such difficult decisions at times. Do you go through this whole cycle of self-doubt, or when you are about to make a decision, what is the procedure that you usually follow to make sure that it's not against anybody really?
Well, I think there are, of course, doubts in everyone's mind. And I think depends on what kind of a person you are. There are people who are very sort of act first, think later, and then there are people who think a lot and then don't act at all because it become you get sort of caught up in that paralysis by analysis, right? Sort of a thing. So I think it's really being able to find what sort of a person are you, and also be able to think about how you arrive at decisions. To me, I do like to think a little before I act. I like to let situations sometimes unfold. Sometimes acting too early can also lead you to take premature actions. And as I said, sometimes not acting, at the right time can cause a lot more problem. So you have to take each situation on its merit and see what are the pros and cons. Do you lose more by acting swiftly and then getting that decision wrong, or do you lose more by being able to by sort of delaying the decision and as Jeff Bezos says, there are different kinds of problems, and particularly two, one single door problems and two double door problems. Single door problem means you go into that door and you can't come out. That's it, right? And double door means you can go in and come out from the other side, which means there are certain decisions which can't be turned back, right? And those decisions you should take more time to decide. And then there are decisions which you can get wrong and it's not going to fundamentally change your life or something. You will always make bad decisions or wrong decisions, right? But you can always come back and whatever, fix them, or work backwards from them. And so you have to decide what problems are you facing. Are these problems which, if you got it wrong, you're going to get into a huge mess, or there are situations where you can get it wrong and then fix it later. So it depends on those problems and what kind of problem I'm facing usually. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have that imposter syndrome. Sometimes you have doubt whether you're the right person to take that decision, right? And usually, if you're in that chair and you have to take a decision, then none of that matters. You have to take the decision. So you can look towards other people and say, I wish you could take this decision for me. But sometimes, as I would say, the large part of being a leader is often standing up and taking ownership, and having the courage to say, look, I'll make a mistake, but I'm the one who's going to be responsible for it, and get on with it, right? As opposed to hoping that somebody else could solve that problem for you. A lot of times it's just about being able to stand up and take the bullet, take the brickbats, take the
Absolutely.
criticism. Yeah.
That was, I
But yeah,
think,
the doubt emerges more from, am I being fair? Am I doing the right thing? Is it the right thing for business? Is it the
very
right thing for the
important.
right? Because a lot of times, what may seem like a decision, says, letting someone go, it's a decision that we often make it very personal and very hard, right? But often you have to think, who are you representing? Are you representing yourself as an individual? Are you representing the business? And what's the right thing in this scenario? For the organization, for the business at large, and I think that time sometimes help ease the pain of why some of these tough decisions.
I think this was an in detail description of how to make a decision. I'm sure whoever is going to see this podcast, they're going to learn a lot. How does it feel being on the other side of it, taking decisions, and what all goes in the process? That was really informative. Thank you for that. And I think I'm going to use some of the techniques myself. And this brings me to the question that, I see your screen and crimson flashes there. And
Yeah.
I want to understand that you have started working in this new region in terms of crimson education. And what challenges do you think you have faced till now, or that you're looking forward to dealing with, especially when you will be working in India?
Sure. So, Crimson, of course, is a pretty well-known brand globally, but we set up our office in India, about 4 years ago. And so the problem I was at that moment trying to solve was what is the classic 0 to 1 problem, which is there's nothing that exists. You start the business and you start building it from scratch, from bottom up. I was still the CEO of the India business, but I was the only person in India, so I was just managing myself in many ways, right? So and with over the years, in the last few years, the problems have now scaled up to say 1 to 10, which is now we've started the business, we built the first level layer of the business. How do we scale it to the next level, which is say 1 to 10? And now where we stand today, we've been able to successfully take the business to a certain point. And the next milestone is how do we take from 10 to 100, which is multiplying the current business 10x, 50x, so on. And with each of these stages, different kinds of problems come in, right? The first stage of business, when you're just ideating and kind of setting it up on ground, will require lots of teething problems. You get caught up in lots of small operational related issues. You have to roll up your sleeves and get some of the stuff done which you would idly delegate, right? From sometimes learning new skill sets that you never thought you would need to, like becoming a marketer, picking up the phone and making calls yourself because you want to understand the market, right? And then the next stage requires you to quickly delegate some of those tasks, because if you get caught up too much in those tasks, then you will always just operate at that stage. And so how do we then delegate quickly to probably the next rung of people that you hire? So to be able to hire at the right time correctly, during those times you'll realize you'll make bad hires, how those bad hires can be far more disruptive and dangerous than not having hired at all. So kind of again sort of navigating through some of these challenges in business. And then I guess the next big challenge for me is now beyond delegation, beyond operational challenges, to kind of think strategically, which is how do we multiply this business 10 times, 20 times? It can't happen overnight. It won't happen in 2 years. So you have to have that long-term vision of where is this business go? And this business today, as it stands, may not go as far as what you're imagining, which means does the business itself, the product itself needs to change, evolve with time? And what would it look like for us to go to a 10x, 100x scale? So yeah, different stages, different challenges.
I had this another question in my mind that, what is your long-term goal or vision for Crimson? And you have answered that already very beautifully. I think resilience and your vision, of course, as you said, a long-term goal, it's not going to happen. Nothing is going to change or happen overnight or maybe in 2 years, but it's going to take some time, and you should have the vision for that, as you very rightly said. And how do you see Crimson Education's role in transforming access to global education for Indian students specifically?
So I think my personal vision about Crimson and the founder Jamie's vision about Crimson quite aligns quite well. International education, global mobilization of students is a huge opportunity. Everyone seems to be throwing their hat into it. If you see the number of organizations that have jumped into this sector in the last 10 years, you'll be sort of mind boggled. The amount of capital that has flown into organizations, the amount of investments these firms have raised is mind boggling. But a large part of this whole segment of international education is really focused on getting people out of the country, right?
Absolutely.
For whatever reason, and most students are coming to you and saying, look, I just want to get out of this country, get me admission somewhere, US, UK, Europe, anywhere. Like they'll be willing to go to Ukraine, as you have known, there were kids we had to rescue from Ukraine, right? Now, the challenge here is, or rather, that's one segment, and of course, everyone has to build their own business and solve their own problems. But to me, the part of this segment that I'm most excited about, is being able to create alternatives for Indian students to access far better educational opportunities that they have in their own country. So to me, a large part of what we want to focus on is build educational pathways for high potential, extremely competent students to be able to be at the topmost universities in the world, not just aspire to go to the best college in India, but rub shoulders with the best in the world, anywhere, right? Whether it's Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Stanford, MIT. And to me, that's the part that we're most excited to create, and that's what Crimson's vision is. That's what our goal is, to be able to create a sort of platform for more and more Indian students to be able to go to top-notch international universities, which then becomes a stepping stone to
Absolutely.
a great career for them in life. For them to be able to access high-level career opportunities,
Mm.
research, working in emerging areas like AI and whatnot. So being able to get Indians on those, in those spots that I would say everyone's vying for.
That's a very progressive approach, I would say. Giving everybody their fair share of opportunities to be able to learn from the best of teachers, best of the universities across the globe. That is, I would say, like one way how India can reach to its maximum potential.
Yeah,
That is very
absolutely.
brilliant. And
Yeah, I
and do
mean, we
you?
talk about brain, but there's also, I believe, huge merit in a lot of our, top minds going and spending some
Mhm.
time, in other countries, studying in international universities, working in global organizations, and eventually, if India has enough and more opportunities, which I'm very hopeful we will, a lot of them will come back because a lot of them want to invest, to contribute to nation building, but also people go where they get best opportunities. And I think this was something that even our honorable foreign minister said recently, that we don't look at brain drain anymore. We're not worried
Yes.
about people in our country. It's about them being able to get the best access to opportunities, and eventually they will contribute back to the country, in more ways than we can imagine today.
That's brilliant, I would say. And when we are talking about opportunities and new ideas, it always brings me to how Eduthon is also, creating this great space for educators, for learners, for school leaders, all leaders in education to come together under one roof and discuss topics that have never been discussed before and have conversations that are relevant. So, how do you think that, Eduthon is relevant in today's time, and what gap is it filling?
I think it's a fantastic initiative to bring so many um, stakeholders, decision makers under one roof, being able to, you know, come together as a community and think about not just their own individual, school or institutions that they lead, but being able to think of ourselves as educators whose collective action can make a huge impact on the society, on the country, right? Discuss what as a society or as a country we're lacking, right? Some of them have the ability to tomorrow influence policy making, right? And so having the right sort of ideas definitely helps create that future for the education sector at large in India. And I think having people who have so much experience also kind of helps bring so much different context, right? There are principals and institutional heads from smaller towns coming in, from bigger cities coming in. They all carry different perspectives, and they all can learn from each other's perspective. And I think it also helps create a very holistic picture of the state of education in this country. And hopefully, a lot of these conversations will lead to some action over time. So I think I'm hoping that Eduthon becomes not just a platform where conversations happen, but also a platform where tomorrow initiatives can emerge, and ideas can emerge, but also action can also happen through collective, community building.
That was really informative in terms of how you said that there are going to be a lot of policymakers there. And when they actually understand the ground level problems and the solution also at the same time being discussed within the community, it creates this very healthy environment where they can learn at the same time, curate ideas as to what can be the best. Right. So that was really informative. I think this one has to be one of the most informative podcast out of the lot, and we were able to discuss so much in such a short span, from decision making to how crimson education is involving children, or inspiring children to go abroad, creating endless opportunities in those terms, and how you are so good with managing such huge venture, and of course two regions, India and where you are right now. So that is something that we are all going to learn from you. And thank you so much, sir. I know we have taken a lot of your time, but you have been nothing but patient. So thank you so much for joining with us today. And anything that you would like to say before we wrap this up?
No, I'm glad that we were able to do this, and I'm thankful for you to given me the chance to speak to you and address an audience. And I hope that as the audience members will find this conversation enriching, and hopefully this triggers certain ideas in their mind, whether it's about finding work-life balance or what the next frontier of growth for their organization and for them individually is. So that's all I hope from from this conversation. And thank you again.
Absolutely, sir. I think this is everybody's reminder to take that action right now. The one thing that was very prominent throughout the podcast was that, if you have been meaning to do something, if you have been meaning to take a decision, you'll get the information here, and then you take that decision, and you understand how to manage things well, how to, carry it with grace, how to carry all the responsibilities with grace. So thank you for all of that, sir. And for all the viewers that are there, I hope this was really informative and you learned a lot. And we'll see you in the next episode of Mentally Yours, presented by Mehfooz by Simran, co-presented by EDUTHON. Till then, take care of your mental health the way you take care of your physical health.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll see you in the next episode of Mentally Yours, presented by Mehfooz by Simran, co-presented by EDUTHON. Till then, take care of your mental health the way you take care of your physical health. Bye.